Welcome to Smart Driven Women, our special episode. I'm Rona Jobe. Here, impactful leaders and entrepreneurs come to share how they navigate their complex careers and personal lives. Our guest today is Sheila Jambekar, Chief Privacy Officer at Dayforce, a cloud-based human capital management software platform that integrates payroll, HR benefits, talent, and workforce management. Sheila started her legal career at a global law firm and transitioned into litigation counsel and then senior counsel at Zynga Inc. She was also vice president, deputy general counsel, and data protection officer at Twilio and was chief privacy officer at Plaid. Sheila is passionate about data ethics and the privacy and ethical implications of new and developing technology such as artificial intelligence and machine learning. She holds a JD from Cornell Law School, a master's degree from Yale University, and bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan. Additionally, Sheila is also a certified information privacy professional, both for the US and the EU. She's a mom of 2 teenagers with whom she shares her home, along with her husband, a German short-haired pointer named Fritzy, and a bearded dragon named Monty. Sheila, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Me too. Got a full household.
I do. We do have a full household for sure. For sure.
Okay, Sheila, we're going to start off with some rapid fire. Okay. I'm going to throw some questions out at you and you just spit them right back out as you think of the answers. First question, what city do you live in and who's in your household?
I live in Burlingame, which is just south of San Francisco. And I live with my husband, my daughter, Maliha, my son, Declan, our dog, Fritzy, and a bearded dragon, the lizard, named Monty.
Coffee or tea in the morning?
Coffee.
What's the last book you finished?
Oh gosh, what's the name of it? I read a lot of history books. I can't remember the name of it, but it was about women in the medieval times.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
One word to describe your leadership style?
Authentic.
Favorite app on your phone?
YouTube is like my exercise app. It is my entertainment. It's everything. So YouTube, I'll have to just admit it. YouTube.
All right. Podcasts or audiobooks?
Podcast.
Who's a professional role model for you?
Gosh, my former leader, Karen Smith, who was a GC when I was at Twilio.
Oh,
yes.
One cause you're passionate about?
Women and people of diverse backgrounds in technology.
Mountains or beach for vacation?
Mountains.
Best career advice you've ever received?
Careers are long. And that was advice that I got when I left the law firm. And it sounds like a weird thing to say, but careers are long in the sense that take the opportunities that come to you because you never know where they'll take you.
Yeah. One last question. What trend in leading teams in a remote environment excites you most right now?
Gosh, that's a tricky one. I'm not sure what the trends are in this space. I would love to see more guidance on how we're supposed to do this right, to be honest. But I do think that sounds weird. People are starting to be like more cameros on. And I'm like, yes, let's get the cameras back on and let's be real humans together.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. All right, first big question.
Okay.
Before you started your professional career journey, did you consider yourself driven? If not, when did it start?
Gosh, I think that my family would probably be like, yes, you were. So I'll admit it. I think I probably have always been a more driven person. I think that it's always been kind of part of my personality to be, what's next? What are we doing? And let's move the ball forward. Yeah.
Do you think you define that differently from how your family, your friends defined it? Because it seemed like they were like, oh yeah, for sure, Sheila. And you're like, I don't know.
Probably. I mean, I think they probably would define it as like, oh, she's driven and roll their eyes at me because it probably was annoying at times that they would say, I wouldn't give up the cause if there was an issue. And now, I think that I've figured out that balance on how to be driven, finding which battles to pick and how to navigate that better, I hope. But I think that being driven is not what I would have thought when I was a younger woman. Earlier in my career, I would have thought driven means there all hours, working all hours, and the last person, the first person in, the last person out kind of mentality. And now I don't see that as being driven in the way that I would want to be a role model for leaders, and how I exercise my leadership now. I think today it's more in my mind about being really thoughtful about what's the vision, what are we targeting, and then helping people go towards that direction, allowing, frankly, everybody to drive. Like, here's where we're going, so let's all drive together, and helping navigate.
I love that driven definition has changed over time. And I feel like with a lot of women that have come on the podcast, that definition has also changed. Because when we were younger, driven meant, you're right, like driving at all hours of the night. But really, what I feel like what folks are describing it as just relentless pursuit, right? And knowing when to pursue and how to pursue, and being a little bit more strategic about it.
Yeah. Driven towards what?
Right.
And now it's as a leader later in my career and leading a team, as opposed to being just sort of about where am I going. I feel a responsibility to help them drive towards the right direction. Help define what is that North Star or that destiny or destination that we're trying to get to as a team. And also making sure that they aren't burning themselves out.
How does that guidance shape how you run your household? Because you have a full household. You have 2 kids, 2 pets.
Yes. Yes. I think that some of that, I'm much more aware of wanting my children to be happy. That sounds strange, right? Like, people, oh, you must be a tiger mom. No, I wouldn't consider myself a tiger mom. I want my children to be happy. And so when they get into this mindset of, I have to do this, I have to do that, I need the best grades, I need to be perfect, I try to come back to, well, at the end of the day, my goal as your parent is to raise good adults who are happy and productive. And so that doesn't mean like every moment they're happy, doesn't mean they get their way all the time. But the goal is for them to lead happy lives as adults and be productive. So that kind of goes back to, like, what is this vision of what we're trying to do in this household? We're trying to raise a pair of happy, productive children who feel fulfilled. So I think that same idea of, like, well, what's the purpose of what we're trying to drive towards in this family?
It's funny you mentioned the word fulfilled. Literally, as you were describing that, I'm like, fulfillment.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. Well, I think about, like, I don't necessarily feel like because I got great grades or because I had, a nice resume, that necessarily made for my life to be better because of it. I look around and I see people who maybe don't have the resume that somebody else does, but they're happy, they're fulfilled, they've done a lot in their lives. That's what I want for my family. That's what I want for myself, is to take a step away from what does it look like the next step should be per the resume, per the what it looks like the right career choices are or the right next step is, and think about, well, what actually is going to make you happy? Is going to an Ivy League school what's going to make you happy, or is going to a school that's closer to home going to make you happy? And really thinking about that fulfillment, that ultimate goal. What were we trying to get to? We're all wanting fulfilled lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something that has evolved or shifted as you were coming up in your career, or has that always been sort of the vision for you? Like, when I start a family, when I make my career decisions, this is it? Or did it change over time?
Absolutely changed over time. Yeah, I was definitely that kind of classic, like, well, I have to get all the good grades and I have to go to the best school and I have to get the awards and I got to get the degrees. Yeah. And then I had actually a moment when I was in graduate school where I pivoted and I decided to go from a career in psychology and decide to switch over to law, which sounds like, oh, So how is that like a life change off the path? But my path was I was going to become a PhD and an academic and work at a university. And I decided to go and often pursue the law instead. And that really was a moment when I realized I need to start making choices about not what the world thinks I should do next, not what, according to my resume, is the right next step, but start making choices about what's going to make me happy in the long run. And so that was kind of my first leap of faith towards switching a career and kind of going off the path and doing something different. And then I've remembered that ever since to say, hey, should I be a law clerk after law school, or should I go into a law firm? I should go into a law firm because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to practice law. Should I go in-house? Should I stay on partner track? Oh, I decided to go in-house and really taking a moment to step back and go, well, where am I going to in the long run? And not worry so much about what the world was telling me I should do. Yeah. We think we get a lot as people in general, women in particular, and career women, what should you be doing? You're now supposed the should. And everybody's telling you, and no matter what, you feel like you're doing something you're not supposed to. You're not fulfilling some sort of should that's out there. And so it had to be very intentional in my life about trying to turn off the shoulds and thinking about what's going to be best for me and my family. I still have to tell myself sometimes when I look around and I see amazing women or amazing people and go, gosh, how come I didn't manage to do that with my career? And think, well, but I made choices that made sense for me. That are making me and my family happy.
The comparisons are hard sometimes, especially, I mean, I've certainly gone through it where, you see a colleague or maybe someone from college or someone from high school and you look at them and you're like, gosh, why didn't I do that? Right. Gosh, why they're doing all these great things. And then you start to sort of walk through the decisions that you made as you were coming up and you're like, were they the right decision? Were they the wrong decision? Should I have done something else?
Yes. So true. And you're simultaneously super excited for your friend, but at the same time, a little bit of that how come that's not me? I got better grades than them, or how come I'm not as successful as they are? And I always remind myself that we all probably look better on paper.
Yep.
than it feels like on the inside. But also having to remind myself that's okay. I didn't necessarily want to make the choices or the sacrifices that they may have had to make to do what they're doing. And I think there's a lot to be said for, luck.
Yes.
That can happen. When opportunities come, some come to certain people and not others. And you can't ding them from taking those good opportunities.
Right. You would have done the same thing.
You would have done the same thing. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if you do this, but I've found myself doing this more and more when I kind of get down on myself like that. I'm like, what would I say to my own child if they said this? Yes. And if they came to me and just started saying these things? Because your children do say those things. Yes. Oh, this so-and-so is getting these grades or so-and-so is, and I'm not so great. Why am I not doing that? I try to keep that in mind when I'm during that self-talk that you have with yourself. I don't know if you experience it.
That is actually I think that's a great bit of advice for all of us to think about. What would we say to our best friend or our child or whomever it would be if they were saying those same things, that they came to you and said that, the self-talk that we have. So I try to do that. And I actually have said it to my kids too, where then they're down on each other. I'm like, if your friend said that to you, was talking about that about themselves, what would you say? Yeah. And help them model that as well. And I think we are often kinder to our friends than we are to ourselves. And we need to start remembering to treat ourselves like we are our friends.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great bit of advice, and I should do it more. And so I'm going to remember to put that one in my pocket and be like, remember, what would you say to yourself if you heard that self-talk? So that's good. It's a good bit.
Was there a specific trigger for you, or maybe a very specific point in time where you were like, you know what, I'm going to drop the should, and I'm going to start thinking of my career path, my next steps, my vision in this way with a little bit more intentionality, it sounds like, especially a focus on fulfillment, or did that just sort of come organically? Like there's no specific moment where you're like, I'm going to talk to myself like this.
It's
Not
so
like
funny.
this.
I know exactly the moment.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I was crossing the bridge going from one part of campus to another. And I was riding my bike. And I just had this moment where I was thinking, what am I doing? I'm doing the right things. I'm doing the shoulds,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm miserable. I'm not looking forward to what comes at the end of this career, or this career path I'm on. And when you're in a graduate school program, it's a lot of intensity.
Right.
You're putting a lot of investment into what comes next. And when you have that, I had that moment where I was like, what am I investing in here? I'm not excited about the outcome.
Yeah.
And so that really was a sort of in the face moment where I thought, I really have to take some time and think hard. And that was the beginning of me starting to shift and think, what do I want to do? What do I like doing? What gets me excited in the morning? That's what, it was a leap of faith at the time. I don't have lawyers in my family. I don't know lawyers. And so it was a leap of faith to say, well, let's go into the law. And it turned out, I'm very lucky, and it turned out to be spot on. I've loved my career ever since, but I have kept that moment in mind of taking a step back and going, what do I love? What gives me energy about what I'm doing? And thinking about my next career choice from the standpoint of what parts of what I do give me energy? What parts of what I do suck the energy from me? And then trying to figure out how to get a job that does more of the stuff that gives me energy. It's actually how I now think about building teams. There's always going to be parts of your job that you don't love.
Yeah.
But there will probably be somebody who loves that part of the job.
Yep.
So now I think about building teams based on either what I'm maybe not as good at or what the rest of the team is not as good at. Like, what is that gap in what we need to do to, get to that vision? But also, looking for people like, I hate this part of my job. Let me go find somebody who loves that part of it. And like, great, you're going to be good at it. It's going to fulfill you, and you'll do that while I get to kind of focus on the parts of my job that I like more. It's never perfect, but it has been something that, because of that moment of really stepping away from the should and thinking about, what do I like doing? What gives me energy? What gets me up in the morning? And how can I focus and find a career that allows me to do more of that? That was a big moment. And I think it's really led me to being very lucky in my career that I've been able to find things to do that give me energy. And I like doing it still.
All while riding a bike.
All while riding
over a bridge.
While riding a bike over a bridge. And the funny thing at the time is I was riding a bike in high heels and a dress. I had figured out how to ride a bike with high heels and a dress while drinking a coffee. And that was like the
literal image right there. I feel like that's a meme or something.
Totally. That is called commuting on a bike. That is true bike commuting there for you. Yeah.
When you had this realization, and I'm so interested because you mentioned you didn't have any lawyers in your family. How did you know to how did you know to say to yourself, actually, I've looked at the data, I've looked at everything that I enjoy and don't enjoy, and boom, law. Nobody in your family is a lawyer. Did you work with somebody? Nowadays, I feel like we have executive coaches, we have career coaches that, kind of walk us through those thinking patterns and like, where should we end up and should we do based on what we like. As a grad student, how did you come to that conclusion, especially not being fully immersed in that type of environment or work environment?
It was somewhat of a leap of faith. I feel like I got kind of lucky. Perhaps it was because I was in a psychology graduate program, so I was spending a lot of time doing introspection and working with clients who were doing introspection. So maybe that gave me a leg up on how to start thinking about it. But I think what I thought about was when I was sitting down with my clients, as a counselor, I was feeling like I wanted to be more active. I had clients who, at the time when I was in this program, they were coming to me with things where I thought, you don't need a psychologist, you need a lawyer. You know, what has happened to you is not okay. It's not fair. And actually, the reality is I needed both, probably, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that I thought that I felt this sort of pull to wanting to get justice for them, and thinking about things in that mindset of how can I be more active in making things better for people.
Drive.
Exactly. That drive, exactly. I guess that drive came out. And not to say that being a therapist is passive or easy, but the position I felt like I was in as being a therapist wasn't as active and proactive as I wanted to be in terms of helping more people than just the person who was in front of me. And so I think it was honestly a bit of a leap of faith where I was like, well, let's try law. And my now husband, then at the time boyfriend, was like, oh goodness, here we go. Like, is she ever going to settle on something? So a little bit of luck, like I mentioned, luck is in there. A little bit of luck that I nailed it on that one. And it turned out to be a really good fit for my drive, my personality, for giving me opportunities in my career to do the things that give me energy.
I imagine you like having those client meetings or those therapist, what are they called? Sessions. Thank you. Those sessions. And immediately afterwards, you're like Googling, like researching, like what needs to what legal standing this client have on.
It definitely felt like, what they really should do. I had to be sitting there like, well, what do you think you should do? I'm thinking in my head going, you should go talk to the police, or you should get a lawyer. But I had to, approach it differently as a therapist in that role. So that's about right. Where my head was going was, how do we help this person beyond just sort of, continuing to provide the therapy? So anyways, I think it was a bit luck, a little introspection, a little bit of luck that I chose the law, and turned out to be the best choice.
Do you think your kids will follow in your footsteps, or maybe your husband's footsteps?
Honestly, I don't think either of my children want to be a lawyer. So I tried. They're not interested. I think my daughter, she loves. She's looking to do engineering. So that's where my husband originally started his career. So I think she's going to follow in his footsteps. Yeah. She's very artistic, so she's interested in architecture and engineering. That's much more my husband. Yeah. Not sure on my son. He's very creative as well, but he wants to be a writer. So. I don't think I'm going to have any lawyers in the family after this. That I will be the one and only in the family of lawyers.
And that's okay. Okay. I feel like when they find the more fulfilling thing, almost off the bat, not quite off the bat, but like instead of spending decades and maybe years trying to figure out, I feel like you've done your job as a parent.
I hope so. I talk to them regularly about what do you enjoy? Like what gives you energy? Which of your classes do you find the most fun? Which ones get you excited? And, trying to figure out, well, how can you make money? It's like that perfect, a Venn diagram of like, what are you good at? What can you make money at?
Right.
And what do you enjoy? If you can find that one in the middle, then that's what you should go pursue. So I try to get them to think about things in that way. Yeah,
I have a Venn diagram like that in my office, which I always reference too. Yes. It's important.
It is important to remember, like, how do you find that right spot for sure?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like throughout your years of finding your right fit and even switching and pivoting, you've had good support. Talk to me a little bit about what that support looks like, and what advice you have for women in sort of similar shoes where they're trying to maybe pivot a little bit, and what type of support should they be looking for?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had support on so many levels. One, I'm very lucky that my partner, my husband, has been incredibly supportive. When we looked at our family as a whole, we think of our family as the unit. Almost, we joke that it's almost like a little organizational corporation. What are we trying to do? We joke our kids are moonshot. When looking at our family unit, we determined that it made sense for one of us to focus more on the family and let somebody else kind of go develop their careers. And I was the person who developed my career. My husband took a step back. So one, I feel incredibly lucky having that kind of within your family unit support where you're making decisions about what's best for the whole family unit together, both about, the mental health of all the people, but also that family unit. So I've been very lucky to have really solid support from my partner. The other places where I've gotten amazing support has been from mentors. I've been so lucky to have really strong female mentors in my legal career, starting from when I was at the law firm and all throughout my career. At one point, when I got the job at Twilio, the joke what my husband made was, well, that was the old girls network that got you the job. And I was like, it's about time we had ourselves.
That's right. Yeah.
But it was a series of, it happened to be women that I'd worked with that knew each other. And they're like, oh, Sheila would be great for that job. And so I think that kind of support has also been tremendous in my career. But it's been men and women throughout my career to have mentors who believed in me, given me opportunities. I've obviously it's my job to step into those roles as well. So I am very lucky that I have a great family. My parents are supportive. My husband's parents are supportive. My husband's amazingly supportive. And then I've had just tremendously amazing, powerful, strong, smart, driven women in my career that have helped pave the way and teach me how to do that.
Yeah. And really, I think what you're saying is men or women, you really need that support for you to just step into your role and drive and grow.
Absolutely.
I mean, men have had that support for many, many years, for decades, and they have, spouses that are highly supportive. And now I love that I'm seeing more women have that type of support system as well as they're stepping into, larger roles.
I feel incredibly lucky, and it is quite amazing. If everybody could have a stay-at-home spouse, what we could all do and what we could achieve, and it's been really amazing to have a spouse that has been open and willing and embraced that. And frankly, he does it way better than I could. So I'm really lucky in that regard.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for taking this time to kind of walk us through, what you've gone through, advice. I know that you are highly passionate about a nonprofit that you support. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. I am on the advisory board of a nonprofit called Tectonica. Tectonica, the mission of the organization is to open pathways for people with non-traditional backgrounds, women, non-binary individuals in particular, to technology careers. I would love for people to check it out, donate, support how you can, because it's really important for us to make sure that technology continues to support humanity.
Absolutely.
And if we want technology to support humanity, then the people who build it need to look like humanity.
Yeah.
And so I feel really strongly about making sure that given that technology impacts so much of our lives, that those who are developing it and who are making the technology that will impact our lives look like us, look like all of us, and represent all of us and all the different personalities and diversity of humanity. So the more we get more diverse people into technology, the more that we will have technology that supports all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Thank you
This
for
has been
joining us.
lovely.
Yes.